Hello, welcome back. Today on the Nerd It, we'll be going over arrays. Just to kind of give you a quick walkthrough of what arrays are. Think of an array as kind of like a bin. Go ahead and take items and put them in. Basically, add as many items you want in there, or put other little bins inside there. Take in input inside the array that'll allow for you to access the data without setting whole bunch of like variables up for the data that you want to present, as well as there's different types of arrays. There's anywhere from just regular single dimension, multi-dimensional. We'll go through each of those types, as well as go through some basic functions that you can use with arrays that we'll use on a daily basis if you're using arrays. So let's go ahead and jump into it. So right now, if you've got your index.php up that you started at the beginning, go ahead and empty it out and go ahead and start with a basic array. So an array, you can take a function. Let's go ahead and call it basic array. And let's go ahead and make it equal to square brackets. This is shorthand for an array. And I explained it to you earlier during the data types that there is two ways you can go about building an array. That is either doing this or shorthand to square brackets. I prefer two square brackets, and I would probably recommend you go ahead and get used to using them, because trust me, you'll see them more often than not in PHP while you're working. So let's go ahead and add some values to this array. Now, just like variables, arrays do not require you to set a specific type. So you can fill this array with numbers, number, string, or a decimal. So when you do that, you can go ahead and so now if you go back to your browser, refresh, you're going to see that this shows 3 different data types. So that's great, because when you're working with data sets from the database at a later time, you're going to notice that like you can bring back data from all sorts of different types, from big text to small text or integers or tiny ints and stuff like that from the database. And you can go ahead and go through the data and parse it and display it however you want. All right, next we're going to go into associative arrays. With associative arrays, basically think about it as a key value pair. And with key value pairs, what you're doing is you're basically taking and renaming the value of 0 in the index to an actual value. This can be a string. We'll go ahead and do associative array. And we're going to equal this to an array. But instead, what we're going to do is we're going to give a value to that key. So you're going to say that the key is going to be named, let's see, what do we want to name that? We're going to go ahead and give it a name. Let's just go with name. It can be whatever you want it to be. And let's give it the name of link. And then we're going to go ahead and do likes Zelda. And if we go and var dump this as an associative array, and we go ahead and save this and go back to our browser and refresh, you'll see that it says name, likes, and then also the values. Basically what you're doing is you're saying you want to give the key of 0 the value of name now. So now this is going to have a key value and likes. So let's say if we go ahead and get the actual Let's say if we want to get a value from this, unlike before, where we actually had to say 0, we can go ahead and do name. So now we can call it the key and then go back and refresh. You'll see that it says link. Okay, so we're going to move on to the next, which is going to be pushing and popping from an array. So let's go ahead and say if we have, let's go ahead and start with push to array. So imagine we have a value or an array. So we have a basic array and we want to go ahead and add to that array. So let's go ahead and set up an empty array. And inside this empty array, say if we want to go ahead, actually, you know what, let's go ahead and put a value in there. Let's go ahead and put 1, 2, 3, and 4. Let's say if we want to go ahead and add 5 to the end of that. What we can do is go array push, which is an array function. And with this array function, we need to start off with an array, the array that we want to push to. And then afterwards, we want to go ahead and tell it the value that we want to go ahead and push to it. This being the value of 5. So that way we can have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So now if we go ahead and var dump basic array and go back to our browser, you'll see that it says 0, 1, 2, 3. I'm sorry, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I was reading the keys for some weird reason. So now let's say if we want to go ahead and take this basic array and we want to go ahead and pop a value from it. So let's go with pop a value from array. Basically what pop means is that what you're going to do is you're going to go ahead and take that basic array and you're going to remove the last item from it. So right now the last item from it is going to be 4. What we're going to do is we're going to take array pop, and inside there we're going to go ahead and add the array. And what that's going to do is going to automatically go through and pop off the last item in the array, which is going to be 4. So if we go back to the browser and refresh, you'll see that it says 1, 2, and 3, which now the 4th is gone. All right. And if we move on to the next, we will go ahead and learn how to remove from an array. So imagine if you have, let's go ahead and comment this one out as well. Let's go with remove. Let me go ahead and go down. Remove from array. Basically, what we're going to do with that is by removing from the array, say if we have a variable called remove from array, and we set that to link Gannon and Zelda, what we can do with this is we can go ahead and call a function called unset. And what that's going to do, if we go ahead and add this, and we tell it the position, now this requires its position in the array, which remember, an array has 0, 1, 2. And unlike calling a value from it, which you would use the key value, you need to make sure that you go ahead and pass the index of it, which is going to be 0, 1, 2. So what we want to go ahead and do, let's go ahead and say we want to get rid of Gannon from this. We go ahead and hit 1, and we go ahead and save that, and go var dump remove from array. You will see that if we go back to the screen and refresh this, you'll see it says Link and Zelda. All right, if you'll see that it says 0 and 2, what we can do is we can actually fix this, because you'll see that what happened is when you do an unset, you're basically taking the key and completely removing it from the array. Let's say if you want to go ahead and resync this so that way it's no longer 0 and 2, and if you want to get the value of 1 again to actually be 0 and 1, what you can do is you can go back to the code and you can run another function that's part of the array. You can do array Let's see here. That was array unshift, remove from array. And what that's going to do is it's going to just reorder the array and reshift the keys to where they'll actually make sense. So if we go back to remove from from array, and we go ahead and display this, you'll see that it's 0 and 1 again. So now it's no longer being removed. It's actually going to resync this to be 0 and 1. You'll find reasons for this when you're actually doing something inside in your coding later on. You'll see why this is actually important, because being able to pull data and actually show the first instance, especially say if you have like a list of data on the screen and you want to get the first value from it, but you know that this is going to be removed, you can go ahead and resort it so that way the indexes are back to normal. This works really good, especially when it comes to multi-dimensional arrays. We will actually have arrays within inside the array, and I'll go over that in a few. All right, now we're going to work on multi-dimensional arrays. All right, with multi-dimensional arrays, you got to think of them as an array that essentially has, instead of like before with the key value pair, essentially think about it as like the key now has a value of an array that could technically have another value of an array, and so on and so forth. So basically what you have going on is that you can just keep on going, and then it'll create multiple dimensions of this array. So we're going to go through and explain how to do this. So we're going to create a variable called multi or MD array. Like I said, it can be named whatever you want. And to do this, we're going to create an array. And then inside this, we're going to go ahead and add a key, and then the value, which is using the fat arrow. And then instead of like doing quotes, you can do another array. And inside that array, you can do, say, link likes tilde, and also wants Triforce. And then on top of that, we can do another array that can be canon, or sorry, another key. And inside this, we can also do likes tilde, and also wants Triforce. And with that, we can go ahead and do a var dump of this MD array and save it, and then go back to our browser. And if we refresh, as you can see, we now have a multi-dimensional array. Great thing about multi-dimensional arrays is you can also display the information from that by calling, and sort of like very similar to how we were displaying a value in an array. But the thing with this, we can go back and we can go ahead and do, we want to just display the values for a link, we can just do link. And if we save that and we go back to our browser, you refresh, you'll see that it only shows his likes and his want. Similar to if we go back and switch to canon and save it, go back to you'll see that it's the same thing, because obviously they want the same thing. Let's go ahead and try it. Let's go ahead and change this from likes, just say likes link, just so that way you can see a difference. When we go back to the browser after you save, you'll see that it says link. Now, let's say if we want the value inside that. So let's say if we want the likes for only Gannon, what we can do is add another index here, which is basically, we just want the likes from inside there. So now we're grabbing the key from inside. So now we're going into another dimension here, which is going to be the likes. So if we go ahead and save this and refresh, you'll see that likes link. Most likely not, but we'll go with that.